Hi there, I am Linda Jo Martin, the Book Lady, and this video is for all my Booktube and bookish friends. For those who don't know, Booktube is a large community of book-loving friends on YouTube. So today I am doing something new. This is called Episode 1 of Book Lady's Random Book News. So I will be talking about things that I have been doing regarding books or learning in the news about books, things like that. So basically how this is going to work is I'm going to take notes in my notebook, and whenever I get a page filled with book news, I will make another video. So there's no exact schedule, it'll just be whenever it happens. So the first thing on my list is that there is going to be 2 Nobel Prizes for literature this year, and there were no Nobel Prizes for literature last year, so that's why they're having 2 this year, and they will be announced in October and the prize ceremony will be in December. I finished reading Kindred. It was excellent. I very much recommend it. I love that book. It's a time travel novel and very well done. So after that, I went on to read Where'd You Go, Bernadette? And at first, I was reading it by listening to an audiobook, and I really did not like it. It was confusing. I didn't know what was going on. And the narrator sounded like she was about 12 years old, which really concerned me because I had just read the other novel that the group picked out, the Ultimate Pop Sugar Reading Group over at Goodreads, and it was To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which I really did not like because it was too juvenile for me. Would have been great if I had been 14, but I'm not. So when I started reading or listening to Where'd You Go, Bernadette? And the narrator sounded so juvenile, I decided to give that book back to Audible, something I have rarely done. I think in all the years that I have had an Audible account, I have only given back 1 book, which it's very nice that if you don't like an audiobook anytime within the first year that you've had it, you can just give it back and get a refund on your money or your point, whatever you bought it with. So after that, I went to Amazon and I did more research on Where'd You Go, Bernadette? And I discovered that it is an epistolary novel, and I have a thing for epistolary novels. I just love them. This was just an excellent novel. I ended up getting the Kindle version, and that was perfect. I think with epistolary novels, you really are better off getting a print version, because then you can see that these are letters, these are emails that are being sent, these are magazine articles, and you get an idea of the format of whatever it is that's being inserted into your book. So I read it with the Kindle version. It was excellent. I loved it, and I recommend it. It is classified as women's fiction and not as YA, and I guess having a 15-year-old narrator does not always mean that you're going to have a YA novel. Anyhow, I think anyone would love that book. So the next thing I did was, the next book I read was The Woman in the Window by Agee, which is like a psychological suspense type of novel. Very well done, like Stephen King said, unputdownable, and in fact, I listened to the rest of it last night, and when I got done listening to it, it was like 3:30 in the morning, and I had no idea I had stayed up that late on a Saturday night, and I had church the next day. So I set my alarm and went to bed, thinking I could probably get by on 4 hours of sleep. And then my alarm didn't go off, but fortunately, before I went to sleep, I prayed that I would be able to get to church on time. And so I woke up at 9:15 naturally, then discovered that the alarm hadn't been set right, and I did manage to take my shower and get ready for church and get there on time, and everything turned out great. Now after church, we had an auction. It was actually like a big feast. We had potatoes and chili and a lot of different kinds of chili. There was some vegan chili there, so that really helped me because I haven't eaten meat in a long time. And so we had the auction, and I actually bought something in the auction. I'm really excited about it, so I want to show it to you. It was the only quilt that was there, so hold on. This is the beautiful quilt that I got at the auction. I would really love to hang it up, like maybe right here where I'm doing my videos, but then it would be a major thing because I have the bookcase there, and that would be hard to move. So I'll probably end up hanging it up on the other side of the living room, and it'll be over my sewing machine. Perfect. I have a big blank wall over there. The next thing I wanted to tell you about, let's see, the author of Where the Crawdads Sing is in North Idahoan. You know, Idaho is a thing for me because I live here, right? So I live in a senior place, and I saw this downstairs. It is like the newspaper for senior Idaho residents. And so I was looking in this, and I saw, of course, an article about a book, and I wanted to show this to you. It's a book review of Where the Crawdads Sing, and it says, North Idaho resident and wildlife scientist Delia Owens wrote books and professional papers about Africa and its animals for decades. But writing her first novel in her 60s, she said, was like starting a second career on the 99-yard line. So, anyhow, she carefully chose to write about the North Carolina coast as the setting for her novel. And there's a picture of her here. So, because it was North Carolina coast and I don't live anywhere near there, I wasn't too enthusiastic about reading the book, even though I know it's very popular right now. But now that I know that she lives in North Idaho, well, that means I'm going to read it. I'm not sure when, but I will be reading it. And I was looking also at the Publishers Weekly, what is this called? Bestseller list, the current bestseller list for hardcover fiction. The #1 novel is Where the Crawdads Sing. And I actually went to Amazon and I looked up all the novels on this list, and most of them I had never heard of before, and a lot of them I have like no interest in reading. The ones that I do have an interest in reading are Where the Crawdads Sing, which is #1 on the list, and then The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. That is #5 on the list. I'd like to read that. And I'm sure there's something else here. An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks. That one appeals to me. And I've already read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. That was kind of interesting if you like magical realism and mysteries. And I guess that's about all that there was on the list that I was really interested in reading. So, in my March TBR, I forgot to mention that I do want to read a classic each month. I had put up that list of books that I want to read each month, and I forgot to mention the classic that I'm planning to read in March is A Death in the Family by James Agee. Agee. So interesting that he wrote this book before he died, and then it was not published, so his family published it after he passed away. And it's about a death in the family. So that's the plan for my classic this month. And it is going to be for Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, prompt number 31, a book about a family. So the next thing on my list was that I was going to mention to you that in Where'd You Go, Bernadette, There were a couple of mentions of Idaho. The book takes place in Seattle, and interesting, this month I am going to be reading 2 books taking place in Seattle. One is Where'd You Go, Bernadette, and the other one is the one that I'm just starting right now, The Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. Anyhow, she wrote about Idaho. Sometimes these cars, she's complaining about the Seattle traffic. She says, sometimes these cars have Idaho plates, and I think, what the hell is a car from Idaho doing here? Then I remember, that's right, we neighbor Idaho. I've moved to a state that neighbors Idaho, and any life that might still be left in me kind of goes poof. So, I guess she's not an Idaho fan. Well, I am. I love Idaho. The last thing on my list is that Jen over at Ifers Inklings is one of the sponsors of the Audiobookathon, and that will be happening in April, and I might take part in that. Now, I have been avoiding readathons this year because I'm so focused on trying to get the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge finished this year. But the Audiobookathon might work into my plans, since some of the books that I'm reading are audiobooks. I've sort of veered away from paperbacks this year because I'm going to be traveling, and I've gone from paperbacks and hardbacks to digital copies, either Kindle copies or audiobooks or both. I really kind of like the immersion reading where you can listen to an audiobook while reading on the Kindle at the same time, and I do that with my Kindle Fire that I purchased a couple months ago. However, I don't know, audiobooks, I will probably be listening to audiobooks in April, so why not do the Audiobookathon? So it's a thought, and I guess that was the last thing that's on my list right now. I'll talk to you later. Bye.